all at the same time, because, you know, there it was. It's all just laid out, and it's just all right there. You know, why wait? Why, you know, if I would have waited, like so many people do, oh, we'll do that one in a few months or something, I wouldn't have had all of that right there and fresh on my mind, and, you know, it just kind of all flowed together. And I just think that the step work is so essential, so important, and I love that you guys are having this step study workshop. And I guess I had a lot of other things I was going to say when I was listening to talk, but I've gone blank now, so that's all I got.
Thanks, Brenda.
Brian, alcoholic.
Hey, Brian.
I was just thinking back to my fourth step and this step back in Seattle, and I remember going down. I was like, I used to go to a meeting every day, you know, and at least just to clear my head sometimes, you know. I used to, I was the type that needed to rely heavily on AA, and these days I don't rely heavily on AA as much as my own spirituality and my own, kind of my own values that I had set up through the steps and through my new life. But I had gotten this assignment from after the third step, and I decided to drive 100 miles away and go to a cabin and ride it over a weekend. And I kept calling my sponsor. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can do this. And they're like, hey, he kept guiding me through. And I call him like every couple hours. And like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? And I just kept writing. Get like 30 pages later, I come back to Seattle, and I go, okay, you ready? So he goes, well, I'm going to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I have an apartment with a buzzer, right? I slept in, and the buzzer rings, and he goes, I'm here, you ready? Like, oh my God, I woke up in a panic, and where's my first step, where's this? After going through like 2 cups of coffee and just spilling my guts, and then he goes, are you leaving out anything? And he's like, well, there's just one thing, and it happened to be the things that were going on that really were digging at me, that made me kept on relapsing, you know? And, you know, I have lifelong things, lifelong resentments, lifelong fears that have just been plaguing me. And to let them all on the table and everything like that. But the thing that got me, like you were talking about, is like, you know, spending time afterwards and getting closer to your Creator. And I'm like sitting there after drinking 2 pots of coffee, and he goes, time to get quiet. Time to get close to God. He's like, are you serious? I can't be alone right now, you know. And I just like, he says, you got to do it before you go out anywhere and do anything. You got to sit down, and you got to like just. It's almost like just jumping right into 6, just right on your own, right there with what you laid out, left it out with some other person in the world, and just. I spent like a good while just gathering my head after that, and then just praying and really just getting back to my roots. And you know, and it was like 6 and 7 was like looking at myself in the mirror finally for the first time and be like, what the fuck? Who am I? And I went from vulgar display of power to like, all you need is love. You know what I mean? And,
yeah.
That's good.
I changed so many times over the years, you know what I mean? And it's a lot easier to revert back to your old ways than it is constant, everyday improvement through spiritual health, which the program taught me. And my way is a lot different than what God's way or AA's way would want to be. So I'm constantly having to remind myself, like coming to meetings like this, Marianne, you spoke to me tonight, you know what I mean? Bringing that back to the core of recovery, in my ears, in my mind, in my heart, that's what I needed tonight. You know? Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
I'm Jeff, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Jeff.
About 4 months ago, I did my 5th step. I did a very unorthodox style. Instead of going to my sponsor, doing my 5th step, I went to my priest and did it. My sponsor is my father, so a lot of things that were brought up during my 4th step, you know, I felt like it would be best to do with a non-partial family member or just anybody that, in general, that I knew. So I drove hour and a half from here, went to Burley, sat down with my priest, and sat down there pretty much 8 hours. And by the time I left there, I went out on the way home, it was an emotional wreck for me. I had to pull over, stop, and just, I hadn't felt like that since the last time I remember ever feeling like that, feeling that powerless was when I was a little kid. And it bothered me a lot. I just didn't know how to take it or how to deal with it. It was just very, very weird for me. I had felt like this, had showed this kind of emotion in a long time. So it took me a lot from the time I pulled over to gather myself back together enough to where I could physically drive or do anything, put my head, even think to walk a straight line. And this is not the first time I've done a fifth step. I've done it quite a few other times. But this is the first time that I'd ever sat down and honestly spilled everything. I mean, there was nothing left out. And there was no judgments. I let him know. There's things in my past that there is no statute of limitations on. And speaking with him about it, I've made my amends with it. I've left it. It's okay now. And I'm fine with it. There's things that I've beat myself up over for 20 years now. That was in my past. And I don't beat myself up no more for it. And that has been the strangest things these last few months. It's been very nice because I've been able to talk with family and friends that know of my past and everything. I've been able to sit down and talk with them freely about it all. I don't, say that, well, I just don't sugarcoat it. This is what happened, this is the way it is, and this is what I deal with every day. And before I used to sugarcoat it, just kind of, so they just didn't know all of it. And then now today, I really don't give a shit. I don't care. If you know, you know. You don't, you don't. And I'm okay with it. And it's nice. And it's a big relief. That's all I got.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
My name's Kirk and I'm alcoholic.
Sure.
Oh, okay. First off, thanks for everyone being here, And it was really good for me. And Marianne, you just, knocked it out of the park like you always do. And I love you. Don't nod your head. Shake your head. Did a great job. Thank you for coming tonight and sharing experience, strength, and hope, and as you were reading that, I was like, man, I haven't done that hour thing in the last 3 minutes. Brian's talking about it, you're talking about it, I'm like, oh man, my sponsees missed something. Oh well, we do, depends how spiritual they are, sometimes I'll do like a prayer with them, we'll meditate for a while, and we'll do different things. I'm kind of like you, Marianne. I'm pretty flexible. I know that this thing called recovery is like a lifelong mission for me, and I'm not going to say I'm going to be sober the entire time. I have no idea, but if I continue to do the things I'm doing today, like there's a pretty damn good chance. We talked about, staying away from resentment and, the poor pity me and the party in my honor, and all that crap, but, some of the things I'd like to agree on, is like in the fifth step and how it's so important not to hang out there, and I love what you were talking about. And, I have a different way I work the steps with someone that's been in the program for 15 years and's only gone through the first 4 and never made the 5. And then I would somebody has 90 days and finally got intelligence that I want to sponsor, and, I want to get to be as healthy as I can be at this point in my life, and there's a different way to handle those people, and I'm a student, man, the steps, probably because I've been so sick in recovery. I've had to do the steps multiple times, you know what I mean? And so I've gone through the steps a lot of times with a lot of different people, and I did a step meeting for about a year in another fellowship, 12-step program, and that was helpful, man, realizing how there's different ways of working, even in 12-step way, you know what I mean? So like different, like, you know, there's Debtors Anonymous, and there's all kind of Gamblers Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. There's all these different anonymouses that AA's lent the thing that works to other organizations, and they have their own take on it, you know. And you know, one of the tools I really like is the children of alcoholics, and that's really awesome. They have a really cool workbook, and I've been through that. And that, boy, I'll tell you, you want to go deep. You know, there's that, or boy, that NA step working guide. Boy, there's 1,000. Yeah, you were talking about, you know, being 150 pages. I've been through it. You know, I did it. You know, yeah, and it takes 3 months of you being very diligent. You know, it's not for the faint at heart. But you know, back to the fifth step. You know, I love what Brenda said too about, you know, how it's being freeing and the freedom it delivers into my life. You know, by going through a fifth step. You know. And what's really amazing to me is every person I've done a fifth step with, you know what I mean? It's like this like awakening happens, you know what I mean? And, you know, if they continue on and do like 10, even if they only do 10 for a couple months after you get through 5 through 9 that you do in one day, preferably, my preference, you know, it's like their life changes dramatically. Even if they go out and drink again, their life has changed, you know. Hopefully they don't drink again, you know what I mean? But some of them do, because they lose that spiritual connection. You know, they gain resentments. They, you know, I don't know. You know what I mean? They're alcoholics. They're in the wrong situation for too long, you know, and they get comfortable in it, you know. But I know when I do a fifth step with somebody, this is what I want to really focus on, you know, I do the same things. You know, I'm looking for patterns for their character defects and their shortcomings, you know, the results of those character defects or the shortcomings, and also like the list, you know what I mean? And one thing that I love that one of my sponsors did for me, I had this like list. I mean, Brian, you're talking about 30 pages. I think I had 30 pages of an eighth step. You know, every girl I ever touched, kissed, had sex with multiple times or not, whatever. You know, I had this like list, and it was forever. It was eternal. And everyone I've ever done wrong to, you know, and you know, anyone I even thought I was doing wrong to, and you know. Overkill, yeah, a little bit. It's like the sponsee, you know. Brian, I had someone like you. He came with me with an autobiography. It was called The Victim of Myself, the greatest victim in the world, the biography of me, you know. Like an encyclopedia. But anyway, you know, I did it too. So if anybody goes through this, it's okay. I did it too, you know. And you know, the point is like, you know, a lot of times, man, it's about who shouldn't be on there. You know what I mean? Because everybody talks about, you know, being thorough. But, yeah, you do have to be thorough. But, I mean, there's a point. You know what I mean? The guy that you flipped off on the highway because he cut you off and he's threatening your life with a baseball bat. That guy does. I don't know if he deserves an amends. You know, it's like that might be one of those, you know, you let go or indirect amends or something along those lines. You know, you can group a lot of those together, you know, and they call them indirect amends. You know, it's like just live and be a good person, you know. And, you know, so when you're doing this fifth step, you know, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for patterns, and I'm looking for the people that actually really belong on the men's list, and people who are just like, just got to feel guilty, you know what I mean? It's like an extra guilty, you know, it's like sugar, you know, it's another addiction, and guilt's one of them for alcoholics. And, you know, I have to feel guilty, so I got to put one more name down on there because I got to feel guilty, you know. And it's just horrible, man. I'm a horrible person, and you're not, man. You know, you're a human being. You do dumb things, you know, just like me, you know. One of my favorite things to do when I work a fifth step with somebody is, you know, after they share something that no one else in the history of mankind has ever done, except the last 10 people you've sponsored, and and they get done with it, and I'm like, is that it? I love doing that to people because it really makes them at ease, man. You know, I'm just like, is that it? Is that all you've done? I mean, that's it. And I do that to put them at ease, but to also push a point that it's, shit, man, you know, there's a lot of more people, things that you could have done wrong. You're trying to be right about life, you know what I mean? And I love what you had to share, too, about Marianne, about it's like, it's not about living in that guilt and shame. It's about making it whole, making yourself whole, and moving on, you know what I mean? It's not about like, let's play how long I can feel terrible for, you know? And I played that game in recovery for 7 years, you know? And that's working the steps and finding God. Obviously, I wasn't doing a great job at a lot of things, but, you know, it took me a little while. You know, because I'm one of those people, you tell me it don't work, I gotta try it just to make sure it don't. And then if it fails again, I gotta try one more time because it couldn't have gone the way it was supposed to go. You know, I must have missed something to make it, what you said, opposite work. You know, you see, you know, I love people who don't have a brain that come in here. They're like, I'm not real smart. You're going to get this thing great, man. You're going to fly right through the steps. You know, I got a high IQ, and I'll tell you what, man, I wish I was like dumb as some people are. You know, I'm like, gosh, I just wish I was that dumb where I wouldn't analyze everything, you know. Oh. People say, oh, I wish I was smart. No, you don't. No, you don't, man, you know, and it's so important, man, you know, and I've said this, and you'll hear me share about this until you either go back out or until you agree with me, I guess. You know, there goes the ego, another character. Another character.
We'll work on that.
Yeah, we'll keep working on that, but you know, humor is one of my high points too. But you know, seriously, is like keeping it light, man. You know, and recovery is not about, you know, the baseball bat and beating yourself with bricks and, you know, bleeding and cutting yourself up all the time, man. It's about having fun, living life, and being able to have a good time, man. You know, all I can say about this step, for me anyway, is that it's freeing, man. And you know, I've seen a couple people in this room specifically who've recently worked that step. And, you know, I mean, I look at you guys, man, and you're different freaking people, man. I mean, you don't have like this, like, oh, there's something right here in the face, man, you know. You know, you don't have that gloom, you know. You don't have that depression, or, you know what I mean? You might go through depression still, I don't know. But yeah, it's not for me to judge. But, I mean, that ultimate, like, feeling of misery that you were enduring for so freaking long, you're free of, you know what I mean? And you know, and that's what I love about the fifth step, and watching people free themselves, you know what I mean, and free themselves with God, in a God consciousness, and with another human being, you know. And the only thing I should, you know, I'm gonna like, I'd stand on the table if I really, you know, it's been a long day in the car all day, so I'm not gonna stand on the table and scream it. But you know, Marianne pointed out, if you've done something that like you can go to jail for, don't share it here. You know, there's some sponsors that aren't great sponsors. I've watched people go to prison. Others, in the eighth step, others, you are an other. You are an other. You know what I mean? If you know what I'm saying, go over the 12 steps again, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But in step 8, it talks about others, and I'm an other. You know what I mean? And if you're in jail, you can't support your family, you can't take care of your wife, can't take care of your obligations, and you are supposed to be able to take care of all those things, or be willing to, except when it injures others, and you're another. You know what I mean? And if you've done something that you shouldn't, you know, I like my one sponsor, he said, go drive 500 miles, introduce yourself as Bob, or, you know, Max, or whatever, some alias, and blow it out there. And I don't even know if that's real intelligent, you know. You know, I really think that, you know, you might need to, like Marianne say, find a priest, you know what I mean? And because sponsors are people too, man, and we make mistakes, and we accidentally blow anonymity. You know, I've been fortunate not to have done it, you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that I won't in the future, you know. I tend to really take a lot of pride in the fact that, you know, and a good pride, a healthy pride, that, you know what I mean, I can keep secrets today, you know, and I can keep things confidential. And there's a lot of people who've given me their trust in this program, and, you know, and I appreciate that trust. And I've given a lot of people that trust back, you know, and, you know, I appreciate it, you know. And there's some people you can trust, and there's some people you can't, you know. And if you don't know, and a lot of times when you're new, you don't know. You don't know when you're new. Sometimes when you got 10 years, you don't know. You know, and I've been in that boat too, you know. If you don't know if you shouldn't share something, share it in a general way. They say general. So you don't got to give details like dates, times, who was involved, location, in a general way. I did something I wasn't supposed to do, you know what I mean? And with that, this program works when I work, and apply it. I sure don't want to know. Thanks.
Thanks, Kurt. Thanks, Kurt.
Mike, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Mike!
You know, thank you, Marianne. I really do appreciate it. You know, I related to a lot of it. You know, you can't do it without the sand. You know, cornerstone's gone. You don't have nothing. You know, first thing that popped into my head was of course, this is off subject, but even the White House is missing its cornerstone. You know, first thing that popped in my head. But, you know, that explains a lot, you know, to me. But, you know, yeah. Hey, you just can't do it without that. You know, you gotta go off a solid foundation. And, you know, I'm work in progress. And, you know, it's only getting better. And, you know, that's what I look forward to tomorrow, you know, and today, the rest of today. And I thank you for your story and your words of wisdom. That's all I got.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm Mary Ann, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Marianne.
I wanted to share something else that I thought about after looking at some of the stuff I was writing before I came to the meeting, okay? I know Roxie did a good job, and I didn't want to go into deep about, you know, I'm hurting and, you know, where self-reliance failed me, right? And so I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of living, I was afraid of dying, I was afraid of staying sober, I was afraid of getting drunk, I was just like she was talking about, okay? So I was dying and I was afraid of everything, the rent, the bills, the job, people. What would the fear look like if I relied on God?
Ooh.
Okay?
Nice.
So looking at what was wrong with me and how I was going to fix it was just wrong. That was the wrong way of doing my, like, 4-step, you know, talking about it. I mean, I can look at the group homes, the institutions, my alcoholism, drugs, the lies, the stealing, the broken relationships, the abuse I suffered, and the power rages I went through. I saw the weak items in my third column. Who, what, cause, in my character defects.
Fourth column.
Okay, fourth column. In my fourth column, when I looked at my defects, I could see the nature of my wrongs. It kind of took the victim role out of me, because I was always the victim, right? Everybody else, and you were talking about that, and that made it really powerful for me. I mean, where was I selfish and dishonest? Who did I hurt? Who did I make jealous? I mean, I know I've created suspicion in relationships before on purpose, right? I didn't like what they did, so I'm going to get them back, and so I'm going to do this, and then now they're going to wonder. But I didn't do anything. I was innocent, but, you know, I sure set it up to make it look bad. So, I mean, that to me, all those things are what helps me develop that step 6. So I can look at, was that right? That was a wrong action. You know, I don't want to do that kind of stuff. So if I'm ready to set healthy boundaries and work on me, and ready to have God take me to a new way of living, then I'm ready to do this step 6 and 7 stuff. And really, I was already there because I'm doing step 3. I say, if I really did a good step 3, I'm really already ready to do this anyway. So I see the journey with my creators just begun, truthfully. And that's what you said, ongoing. You know, progress, not perfection. I ain't never going to be perfect. God won't tell me where the rocks are to make it look like I'm walking on water even. When I think I'm important, my way, you know, the stuff I want, it's almost like funny. Because it's not my stuff. I mean, it's what God wants. And Mary Ann gets an idea about it's supposed to be this way, and that's a joke. It's really a joke. I stopped having those kind of expectations, because the expectation is a damn shortcut to a resentment. As soon as I expect somebody to be doing this, then they don't do it, then I get all upset about it. And I cannot afford to do that, because that's too much damn work. Then I got to do a 4th, and a 5th, and a 6th, and put it back on the altar. It's too much work. Just good stuff. I mean, it's good stuff. You guys keep coming back. Don't drink, don't use, don't die. I don't know what step you're on. Keep it simple, you know. And I'll shut up, take it the rest of the day.
Thanks, Marianne.
Thanks, Marianne.
Well, my turn.
Hi, Lori.
Hey, Lori.
Lori.
I'm Lori, and I'm an alcoholic. It's been a good meeting so far.
just strolled in here, got to listen to some great sharing. Everybody is, well, not everybody, but most people are afraid of step 4 or 5. Because they think that it's like writing this damn confession and life history and all these autobiographies and encyclopedias and all this. That's part of it. But after reading some of Marianne's literature, it was like, it's really what it is. And I've done 4 steps with other people as well. Personally, I wrote on all the steps 3 times in the first 3 years. But none of them meant anything to me because I never got down to the details of why I was pulling this baggage of bricks around with me. My guilt, my fear, my anger. Why did I feel this way? Why did I think this way? Why did I behave this way? All of those things that I drank over. Why was I still afraid of people? Why did I always have to get all gussied up to go to the damn beach? Hello? You know? Why did I have to feel that I had to do these certain things in this order on this day of the week to, you know what I'm doing? I was confining myself to this perfect little regimen that I had created in my own head in sobriety. And I wasn't okay with me until I shaved my legs on Monday, took out the trash on Tuesday, did laundry on Wednesday. Do you see what I'm saying? Why did I do that? I did that because I was afraid to change anything. I was afraid to be anything other than just don't drink, go to meetings, shave legs on Monday, you'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? So my whole life was regimented like that. And I was effing miserable. So I became a workaholic. Money's good. Didn't have to drink. I could work 12 hours a day. Go to a meeting, go home. My world's perfect, right? I didn't have a life. I didn't realize I didn't have a life until not having a life caused me to be miserable. So I called up my sponsor. Still have one. I hadn't gone to a meeting in a year. Called up my sponsor crying. She said, come over, pack your shit, come on. So I drove an hour away to her house out in Pomona. And for Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I did steps 3, 4, and 5, like that. What it was, and I've heard a lot of people say, it's empowering, it's relieving. Well, what it was is that when I would talk about, well, first we did step 3. Step 3, because I already had my God, but I didn't realize that God wanted me to be okay with me. God didn't want me to be a rigid, somebody who did communion and church and do all these regimented things, all these rituals that I grew up with in the church, okay? It wasn't about rituals. It was about how my head, my heart, and my gut felt when I did something. It was about God loving me like this instead of like that. I was loving me like that. God was loving me like that. And I kept squeezing me, and God's like saying, "Oh, stop it." And so, because of my emotions getting me all upset, which forced me to call my sponsor to do my step work. So she explained to me that, you know, step 3 is not all about that. It is when your head, heart, and gut are in tune is when you're doing God's will. It's when your head is aching because you can't sleep from worry, or your heart is aching because you know you've done something wrong, you're guilty, or your gut is churning because you're just so full of fear because you can't change something that you did, or you're afraid of the future. That's not God's will. That's me freaking out over something that I think I have control over, which I don't. So, my head, my heart, and my gut, when they're in tune, I am doing God's will. So stop worrying about it. You know? Just say the serenity prayer and walk into the work. That's it. You know? Step 4 for me, oh, I'm getting warm now. Step 4, finally, was not a confession of all my sins, but it was, it was an acceptance of all my thinking problems that I didn't know until we talked about it for almost 24 hours straight. I would share something, she would share something. We would laugh, we would cry. I would share something, she would share something. Same thing. She handed me paper, I'll write it down. Do this, do that. Why did you do that? Because I was afraid. That's a character defect. Why were you afraid? Afraid of what? Afraid of not being perfect? Afraid of God not loving you because you don't do a ritual? You know, stupid bullshit stuff that I made up in my own head that I thought I had to be. So it was all these things, and finding out that I was afraid of people, afraid of change. Who is it? That my processor, my brain, takes information in, shreds it up, spits it out, and it's all wrong. And I believe that crap. I believe everything that my shredder just spewed out. And I'll be damned, I'll stand up with a broom or whatever and say, you know, I'm right, for God's sake. And I'm not. I'm you. And through this process of dumping all my confusion, fear, anger, and who the hell cares how many people you slept with? It's not how many, it's why. We don't need a list of their names. We don't care. But why? Because I wanted to be loved. I was afraid of being alone. I thought I was unlovable. So I went whoring and exploring. And it didn't get me anywhere but a bad damn reputation. That's what the 4 steps about.